First tank. Ooh, doesn't take a lot. Hey guys, Vas here from Aussie RC Playground, and today I have a little bit of a special guest. We've got Paul here, who you may have seen in the background in the past through RC Race Wars and perhaps even some of my flight videos as well. Paul has been helping me in running in the Losi 8ight-T, which is a two-stroke gas-powered buggy, or Truggy. Now, what you guys saw at the start of the video was the first time that this guy got started, and what I wanted to do was actually talk about and sort of give you a bit of feedback in regards to the run-in process and just some of the issues that we've come across with this particular car. And hopefully some of you out there may have a remedy. Hopefully we'll get some assistance from Losi as well, because we have shot off a couple of emails in regards to the issues that we're having. But essentially, once the car got started, and I think Paul will be able to back me up here, is it's very slow, it's running really rich, and there's a fair bit of smoke coming out of the exhaust, but that's all normal. You just need to be very patient with it and be fairly slow with it as well. Don't over rev it, don't hold the throttle down too long. Make sure you keep an eye on engine temperatures. Follow the instructions to the letter, and you know, the 16 tanks will eventually fly by. But it did take me a few days to get through them all.
But the things are small enough. It doesn't take as long as you would think. Like, we thought 16 tanks, holy cow, this is going to take forever. But it's only, what, 150cc, so it's...
100, yeah, it's not, the tanks don't last that long. The first few probably do. The first 3 tanks do take probably 15 to 20 minutes because you're going so slow with it. But with every tank, you'll notice the time starts to gradually creep down. And eventually, I think the last full tank that we ran through it probably got about 10 minutes out of it.
Yeah, 10 or a bit more depending.
And that was really pegging it and giving it a hard time. Now, we did record quite a lot of the running in footage, and we did get quite a lot of runtime with it on camera, but I didn't record every single tank. I think I missed out on about 4 or 5 tanks that I didn't record, purely because I didn't see the point. But interestingly enough, I think from tank 8 to tank 12, I took the car out to the BMX track. I was on my own, and I remember this was a Monday, and I remember calling you straight after and saying, man, this thing has really woken up, and it's really going, it's really hammering. And sure enough, Paul comes over the next day. All right, let's run it again. Let's run the last 4 tanks through it. And it was a very humid day, and it was a bit warm.
Really humid, yeah. Yeah,
it was really humid. And I hadn't touched the car. The tune was exactly the same as it was the previous day, and this thing rang like a pig. Yeah,
like really, really struggled. So anyone who knows two-strokes will know that these things have a window of operation where they are most efficient because of the port and the pipe. And so when it revved enough to come onto the pipe or the port, like Vas said, he knows that it was revving high enough that you would notice that there was an increase in performance, that it was waking up. But on this really humid day, it, like you said, was a real pig. We tried everything that we could do. Yeah. We tried, you know, high-speed settings, low-speed settings. We reset them like a million times, trying to find a happy medium.
What was going on? Yeah,
because remember, we're still in the wearing period as well, so we didn't want to like.
So this was tank 12. This was all the way from tank 12 to tank 16. So this was the last stretch of the running in process. And the day before, I could really see this thing picking up speed. I mean, I was probably doing well over 60, somewhere between 60 to 70 kilometers an hour. And this thing screams, like it is loud and revs quite a lot. I mean, at one point I thought, is this over revving? But it's fairly normal. It does go. But yeah, just on that other day, we had to lean it out quite a lot to get it to run.
But even that, it made no difference. And we remembered that because we were still using the Losi oil as well. So we're making sure that we did everything as per the book. So we didn't, like with those last few tanks, we may have leaned it out a little bit. No, actually not leaned out. We richened it up a bit because it was too hot. So it was the opposite. Because still, obviously, you've got to have that little trail of smoke, and that was what we used as our guide. Yeah. But even then, like we were just too much in either direction to not be satisfied that it was going to be safe. So we just called it a day at that point and just thought, no. So if you're in a very humid environment and you feel that you can't wear it in, I'd probably recommend just backing off and not bothering doing anything until the temperature cools down a little bit. For those of us on the northern end of the world, you probably, if it's not snowing where you are, and no doubt it'll at least be cold.
Well, we know Chris is not going to be running his for a little while because he doesn't want to get hypothermia in his fingers, and that's granted. That's justified, I suppose.
Or Jeremy.
Well, the only thing I worry about with Jeremy is his patience.
Yeah.
Because it did look. The first couple of tanks, you are going to stall. It does get a little bit frustrating until you find that medium, that happy medium where the car is actually going to run. The first tank or two, it does sometimes get a little bit frustrating. Once everything starts to wear in, I suppose from tank 3 all the way up to tank 12, it's pretty smooth sailing. I didn't have too many issues.
Correct.
At that point. It was only
just a matter of patience.
Yeah, just a matter of patience. And it was only those last 4 tanks because of the humidity, because of the weather conditions, that we did have a little bit of trouble.
But we did go out afterwards and have a little bit of a play of the tune and notice that, I started to see exactly what Vass saw, which is that having it around about what the instructions tell you to do, it did wake up. You could see that it was getting a little bit more speed under its belt, and once it gets to a particular RPM, you can see, it sounds good, it sounds a little bit more clean, still bogging down and missing like it was horribly over fuel, but as per the instructions, still kept wearing it in and kept doing it, but it was definitely improving. Now, one thing to point out as well that you probably saw on Vass's vids, and one thing that he did was he was going up and down his driveway. Now, me personally, I probably wouldn't recommend doing that.
You'd want to stay on a flat terrain. Ideally, you want to stay on flat terrain. The reason for that is because the car is wearing in, you don't have the revs to be able to really spool it up, and going up the hill, you're likely to burn out your clutch, I suppose.
Yeah, so burn out your clutch or glaze it, or glaze the motor, which is a pain.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I was doing it, I was using the momentum coming down to let it go up and then sort of rev it and sort of do it that way. It took a little bit of practice, but eventually I got there. The only reason why I did it like that, obviously, that's my driveway, and B, I didn't want to go on the road, so that was the reason why I did the running the way I did. But I did, within my means, and everything's running. I mean, this thing starts now pretty much first pop. Once you sort of get a bit of fuel into it, it purrs like a kitten and screams like a wildcat. I love the sound of this. I really do like this engine. It's running really nice. It's working well. However, the reason why there hasn't been a full-on bash video with this thing,
why we've chosen to do
why we've chosen to do this is because we're having some major issues, and that is with the receiver. Now, what tends to happen is that when you start the car, it'll idle for a little bit, and even sometimes during starting, it will unbind from the remote. So the remote, in case you've forgotten what it is, it's this one here, which is the Spectrum DX2E. This, of course, comes with AVC, and we started using it. It's, I used the remote through the entire run-in process. Everything was fine, but it wasn't until after the running process that we started experiencing some issues, and that is quite simply that when you push the car down, you turn it on, right? You push, check, make sure you have your steering, everything's working. Yep, no worries, good. Push the car down, bang, you lose all throttle, you lose steering.
Well, once the car started, and it'll all of a sudden sit here, it'll either start hunting or it'll bump the revs up, without you doing anything. And with the servo, receiver box off, you could see that it was blinking, green, or then it would go red, and all of a sudden you'd be sitting here playing with the throttle, and nothing would happen.
Yeah.
Which was
and
really
then in the midst of all of this, it blew the throttle servo.
Yep. So and that was another thing that we noticed, that blew the throttle servo, and
so I'll take the top off here.
Just
lock that over the side there. So yeah, that's the throttle servo there. So that one had a slightly burnt smell to it, and it just had no signs of life, wouldn't turn left or right.
Now, I did pull this apart afterwards just to see if it was burnt, because all the circuitry on these things are in the bottom. I did pull it apart just to have a look. It did have a funny smell to it, but it wasn't like your typical burnt servo smell. There was no melting in the bottom of it, but yeah, be assured, we tested it in other cars. There was absolutely no signs of life. So I pulled apart Vasco's 8ight-T.
Yeah, the BZ 8ight-T. We got a servo out of there, which is the TS900 from Hobby King. It's a Trackstar servo, which is a digital servo, and you'd want that to be a digital. You want to use digital servos in here.
Yep. we did, or just another point as well, is with the Spectrum servos, they run, I think, 23 tooth. So you'll notice that it actually comes with...
oh yeah, the servo horn. It comes with a huge adapter on it, so it makes the little sort of pinion on here quite large.
Yeah, it increases it. It's like going from, I don't know, like turning your foot, putting something, sliding over something over your 48 pitch pinion to turn it into a Mod 1 pinion. As an example.
So if you've got a bunch of 25 tooth servos lying around like I do, it's not going to hook up to that one.
So all we did was...
You want to use something else.
Yeah, so we just left the alloy arm on there, which had a bit more throw on it than we'd like, but we used one of the smaller holes. We just restricted the endpoints, and these particular track sails are known for being really tall, and that was my biggest concern. But it actually worked out. There's nothing in it.
It's basically there's a whisker in it. I think that's it. Now, aside from that,
hold on, one extra added point. Because of the way this is all wired up, you need, if you do replace the servos, make sure that they're high voltage servos. Because you've got 7.4 volts coming off the receiver battery.
There's also another reason why we picked this particular servo, because I could have stripped any other one of my cars, but looking at the instructions and looking at the servo that was in there, it needs to run 7.4 volts, right?
Yeah, correct. So we had
so 6 volts ain't going to cut it.
No,
7.2.
You'd be chancing it with some 6.4. So just get something is 7.4 high voltage. And as a bit of a bonus as well, I noticed that, okay, this has got a lot more speed and a lot more torque than what this does. And you notice it straight away. So braking, when it sort of was kind of going for a few seconds, was a lot better. And throttle response felt a bit better as well, just because it's pulling the trigger a lot quicker. Yeah. Sorry, continue on.
So once we figured out the servo issue, we then started toying around with receivers. And I said, okay, well, look, if it's unbinding, there's probably a fault with the receiver and the remote. Who knows? Let's try something different. And I think the first one we tried was the Fly Sky.
Yep, was the Fly Sky.
Did we even get this to bind? We got it to work? Did it start with it at all?
We did, but I just noticed that the voltage of the battery was very low, so I thought, okay, well that's not it.
Right.
We won't try that because the battery's obviously
okay.
low.
So that was a failed attempt.
Oh no, it wasn't. We thought it was.
We thought it was.
It was still working, but I noticed that it had like.
The next one we tried was this guy here, which came out of my
E6
3HX from Team Magic. So we decided to hook this guy up, and I think it did start.
It did. It worked fine. It worked fine. Or it didn't work fine. It worked for a couple of seconds and then started doing the same issue where it was losing bind. So I was sort of cruising up and down Vasco's driveway and noticing that it was sort of turning off all the rev. It did. Revs would kick in and just flew straight into a bush.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well that's a little bit concerning.
So then we decided to try the Futaba, which is my 4PLS, which is this guy right here. And I decided to use this receiver, which is a receiver that you can get from Hobby King. These are about $22, $23.
Australian, yeah, they're about
Australian.
Yep.
Which is probably about half the price, maybe even less than half the price.
And so far, I've got those in a few of my cars and no issues so far.
Yeah.
So I thought, I know these things run.
Let's give this a go.
Yeah.
And this one actually worked the best.
It did. It was the one that had the least amount of dropouts. It held bind for probably the longest, but it's still...
And the beauty about having this remote hooked up to it as well, or any computerized remote, is that it allows you to send your endpoints, especially on the throttle servo, if you do put a different servo in here, with the different servo ones that you have. Because when you do get the original servo, it has a very stumpy servo horn, obviously to limit the throw of the throttle. So with something like this, ideal to hook it up to a computerized radio and sort of adjust your endpoints accordingly. Sorry, the dog's laying down behind us. So this one actually held pretty well. We managed to run the car. At least you ran the car up and down the road.
I ran it up and down the street. It flew into the bushes once, and I thought.
He came running in. He goes, "All right, get the camera. Let's go out to the track and let's get a running video
while it's going now.
Whilst it's going, see if we can put something together." And sure enough, we got to the track. And I'll show you the footage up on screen, and you guys can have a look at it.
But you'll notice that there's no sound over this, and the reason why is because Numpty here just.
This one had sound.
It did have a sound.
This one had sound. Now I've ran into 16 tanks, and probably we're up to about 18 tanks now, maybe even 19 to be honest. I've kind of lost count after I ran this guy in, and during the running process, everything went pretty smoothly but since then we've been having a few issues, and well, Paul, do you want to start it and see if we can get it going? It does start, it does run. Yeah, you may need to turn that on. So we'll see if we can get it going, which is, there we go, beautiful. Now here's the problem. We have no control over throttle or anything. Now I'm running off the carb because we thought originally it was the Spectrum remote that was giving us troubles, and it's not actually the Spectrum remote, because this is the third remote we've got in this Truggy, and for some reason every time we start the Truggy it just unbinds or does something where I just lose all control of the receiver or of the car. So it's a little bit weird what it is that it's actually doing. Alright, we're going to try and start it again.
The problem is that it's actually not binding at all now.
Oh, it's not binding at all?
It's completely unbound from the controller.
Wow, well there we go.
The original running video that we did want to do was when the car was still working with the Spectrum remote. It was right after we did, I think
a little bit of a tune.
Was tank number 17.
Ah.
So it was right after everything was done.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of a tune done to it. But there was no sound, and the problem that we were having then was the car just kept stalling. Every time we went over a jump, it would just stall.
Yeah.
And that was really due to the fact that we still hadn't sorted out the idle issue.
Yeah,
which is another issue. Is another issue. So the idle issue with this is as such. You have your high speed and your low speed needles, which of course you need to adjust to get your tune right. Now in the manual, it says not to touch the idle needle. So you do not touch that needle. However, I had to touch it.
Yeah, well, no, we had to, because every time you'd hit the brakes, it didn't matter. So you're cruising along, hit the brake, die.
It just died straight away. So what I actually did, and this was advised to me, I think you showed me an article from
RC Car Action.
RC Car Action about having like a butterfly inside the carb, and you sort of look at it, make sure that it's never fully closed when you hit the brake.
Yeah, or the needle, sorry.
Yeah, so I was on the phone with Chris from Hemistorm, and I was chatting to him, going, okay, this is the problem, and he goes, all right, take out the filter, have a look inside, and tell me what you see. And it's not a butterfly as such.
No, it's like it's a slide.
It's a slide, so it's like a little push rod that goes in and out. Now we originally thought with the idle needle, if you undo it,
much like we just use the same like in a school of thought. Yeah, the same logic for the high and low speed needle.
So we thought, okay, if we undo it, we're reaching it up.
Yeah, correct.
But if we tightening it, we're actually leaning it out. But here's the thing: the needle kind of slides. If you can imagine, let me see if I can do this. Okay, so this is the little piston that sort of. As you pull the throttle, the piston opens from the chamber and lets more fuel in. And there's a little needle there that sort of measures the fuel and all that air mixtures and so forth. And then as you hit the brake, that needle goes back in, or that piston goes back in, and then you have this idle screw that kind of sits there on an angle, and it's designed to stop that from going back too far. Now, you can undo that 10 times. It doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. You can do it up 10 times to the point where you tighten it. The window of opportunity of where you can actually tune your idle needle is like
really
a 32nd of a turn or something like that. It's so minuscule. It's just a touch of the screwdriver and you've pushed him too far and the thing won't close. So what that means is that as you pull the throttle open, it may actually get stuck on open. It won't actually go back in.
Yeah, because it's sort of squashed up against it.
Exactly. So it's a very finicky, touchy, temperamental thing.
Understandable, which is why they said don't touch it.
Exactly, this is why they said don't touch it. But if you pull the air filter off and you actually look inside the chamber, you can see what you're doing. You can see exactly what you're doing, and you'll be able to tune it accordingly. So we managed to figure that out. And I think at the end of the day, regardless of the receiver issue, we did get it going.
I did also notice, and this was something that I noticed as well, like, Vasa did sort of improve it there as well, and that did make a difference. But what I noticed is with every sort of subsequent tank, and once the car warmed up and was actually able to go, there seemed to be sort of, I don't know, enough gas in the pipe or whatever, so when you smashed on the brakes, like you would when you're racing or something, or even with us when we're bashing, it's enough that the car would still brake, but the engine wouldn't shut off. and then when you're back on it again, off you go. But if you did hold it for more than a couple of seconds, the engine still would stall.
Would stall, yeah.
But it was enough to make it like a non-issue for all intents and purposes. But it was just a bit annoying that we had to go down that path and be finicky. And
it is one of those things where I think it just needs a little bit more fine tuning out of the box.
Well, this particular one is I haven't heard of a lot of people having that particular issue, but I suppose there are some guys that have said that it stalls after going over jumps, or is it the guys with LSTs? Maybe both. I can't remember now.
Well, long story short, the reason why we haven't seen a running video of this, a proper running video, is because I believe, or at least we believe, based on the research and the issues that we're not the only ones that have had this unbinding issue. This is not unique to this car or to this particular car. There are other people out there that have got this problem as well. What we believe is the major cause. The major cause of this problem is the igniter box. Now, the theory has it that the little, what is it, a 1200 milliamp?
The battery.
The battery. It's 1200 milliamps, I think, isn't it?
I don't know.
Is it in there? No, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I think it's 1200 milliamps. It's only a very small 2S pack, and the theory is that this igniter box is just chewing up a lot of power, or it may be feeding back power.
Well, see, that's what I think. I think this particular one is faulty and is feeding power back into the receiver. And the reason why is because when we pulled out the receiver, one thing we didn't mention was when we pulled out, not that one, the Futaba, when we pulled out the orange Futaba receiver, I noticed that it was actually really warm.
Yeah, that's right.
It was really, really warm. And the other thing that I noticed as well was that it was, which kind of didn't, to me anyway, didn't make sense considering that it was only running 2 servos and providing power to this. So I don't know if it was drawing, if the box has got a fault and it's either feeding back or if it's withdrawing way too much current. But even when we ran one of the batteries what are the size of the battery? 1.7 or 1.6?
Oh, the little one that we use on the Mini Nitro Circus is 1.5.
Yeah, so we've got 1.5 that we use on the Mini Nitro Circus 1.2.
But we haven't tried a 3000 milliamp 2S.
Yep, exactly.
We haven't tried a 3000 milliamp 2S.
I had it out there.
We had it hooked up outside. We sort of strapped it to the wing of the car, and we thought, okay, maybe there's something going on here where
the C rating of the battery.
The C rating is just not right, So we did a little bit of math. Okay, just strap a 3000 in here. Should be ample. It's a 20 to 30 C. And it still had the exact same effect. It would just continuously unbind from the remote.
So it was 100% no better or worse in any particular way. It still unbound and did everything that it normally did. But we noticed that when we pulled this out, that it toasted. So this is actually now dead.
It's faulty. It's dead.
It's dead now. It actually killed the ESC.
Not the ESC, the receiver.
Receiver. I can't remember what I stuck back in there afterwards. I may have put the Spectrum back in it again.
So once that one blew, I actually tried all the other receivers. I had like dummy fitted an ESC motor and everything to try and suss out if all the other receivers were working. The receivers that we tried, from the Fly Sky to the remote, from the E6 to and the Spectrum, all of these worked with that sort of little dummy grid thing that I see. They all worked. Everything worked.
Except for that.
That one is toast.
This was the one that was in the car.
Solid light. It does not bind. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't matter. We've tried. That's gone.
And it's not. And I'd say that it's. Don't think that's because of the quality of that.
Yeah.
I think this thing was fine. It actually was in the car the longest, considering it had the most runtime with the car faulting. But like I said, it just seems a bit too coincidental that we've lost a throttle brake servo, and also
because the servo went before we swapped out the receivers. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, and then we lost the receiver. So the only thing that we can think of, it's totally not the batteries because we swapped those out, is this igniter.
The igniter box. And I think that's the thing that's probably giving everybody the most grief, is this igniter box. Whether the battery is not strong enough, I don't know.
I've done some research online and noticed that the guys that are running either the LST monster truck or this thing. There's one guy on YouTube at the moment who I sent a message out to ask, have you fixed the issue? And he says, oh yeah, I fixed the issue by replacing the igniter box. So remember, everything up until the 16th tank.
The 16th or 17th tank.
It's fine.
Yeah, there was no issue. I mean, I was dying to actually have a nice day, go out there, fill it up, and go hell for leather. So it's just unfortunate that we started to have these unbinding issues in the car, and then we still had to sort out at the time, at the end of the run-in process, we still had to sort out the idle problem as well. But that's, I mean, look, at the end of the day, that's essentially the biggest problem I'm having with this car at the moment is just that. The engine, my biggest fear was this engine. A lot of people, when I bought this car, were telling me that these things would detonate.
Spit out a crank, is it, a conrod?
Yeah, there was just... That's why I took my time running it in. I followed the instructions to the letter. I had a temperature gun. I kept my eye on the temperature of the motor.
We were very vigilant. Oh, but that's a good thing to start, actually. Look, I'd probably recommend... I'll probably show up a clip in a sec. I'd probably recommend just around about the same level
kind of
on the block as where the exhaust port is. Not on the exhaust port, but that same...
You'll notice that there's a spring that goes all the way around the actual head of the motor that holds the exhaust in place. Aim at that sort of level, and that gives you your best temperature.
Yeah.
And the way that I did it, I'll do a couple of laps, go around a few times, come over, check it, go again, and of course I did all this with the body off, obviously, and just make sure that, if you don't have the car up to temperature, it's also a bad thing. Make sure that you're not running it too cool. So if it says that it's supposed to be at 200 degrees, run it at 200 degrees.
So yeah, just lean in just a tiny bit.
But keep it, don't run it at 150 because that's not running in the engine. It needs to get ramped up in temperature. It needs to get ramped up in revs. Just follow the instructions. Everything is there clear as day.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I would also recommend don't run the stock tyres when running in the car because it is recommended to run, I think, the first 8 tanks on the road.
Road, flat surface, not run off-road.
Not off-road. And if you're running these things doing figure 8s and so forth, you're going to burn out the tyres before you even have a chance to run the car. So get yourself a crappy set of tyres, just anything that sort of will fit, and run it like that. Because I ran my old saber-tooth tyres, and by the time I was done running in the car, they were like bowled on the edges and they were worn out. So these are brand new. We ran them a couple of times on the road, on the dirt, BMX track, and that's it. So they're still good to go.
But that's it. So
that's really it, isn't it? I mean, that's pretty much our sort of post-run review. Some of the issues that we've come across, and I wanted to do this fairly informal. Just a couple of guys kind of having a chat, discussing it, and sort of passing a lot of this information on to you, and also explaining to a lot of my viewers because I've had so many people wanting to see this thing run. And hopefully, I've had enough time here to show you some running footage up on screen, even though it may not be great because we sort of had the camera set up on a tripod and we were just playing with it, running backwards and forwards, going through the tanks and just going through the entire process of running the car in. But hopefully you've seen now what's been going on since I unboxed it. And you guys are all up to date. And this is where we're at. We're going to be sort of waiting for Horizon to get back to us.
The idea is that we desperately want to get it going. We desperately want to get a running vid and just have it run like some others have got, because we've noticed there's not really a lot of videos, especially on the Truggy.
On the Truggy,
there's not a lot of videos.
Because the thing is, I mean, look, it's very easy to sort of throw in the towel and go and get an electric conversion kit, which that's an easy way. Yeah, that's an easy way. Bless you. That's an easy way out. But I really want to have this running. I've got enough electric cars, as you guys know, and I want to have this as a point of difference. I want to have this as, and especially now that I know that the engine is running properly and it purrs. I mean, we started up the last time we had it running, and it purrs, it idles perfectly. It's
fine. We after spending this much time and effort on getting it, bedding and so forth,
to get it to this point, it would be a shame to just throw in the towel and convert it. So I really want to stick to.
It's a matter of principle now. We've got to get it running. We've got to do it.
And not just that. I mean, with Jeremy having one and Chris having one, and also Reed from Urban RCLA, with all 4 of us, plus being part of the network, and we all want to do something special with this car. We want to get it running, and
we're one of the few, because of weather of this time of year, that could actually pull this off.
Unfortunately, we're a little bit ahead of the rest of the pack because of our season, while everybody else is going into snow and cold and so forth. We're sitting here scorching 40-degree heat. Well, it's not today, thankfully. The last couple of days it has been. And you know, we're a little bit ahead, so hopefully the other guys will catch up. This also gives us a bit of time as well to figure out what's going on with this car, and if we can come up with a solution for it, then if the other guys, once they start running theirs, they come up with the same problem, well then we'll have the answer right there and go, yep, this is what you need to do. And of course, you know, once Chris gets his going as well, because he's one of the guys that I'm really waiting for him to get his going, because his input will also be very valuable. Can I even say that right? And because he obviously got the octane going when nobody else could, and you know, it would be
HPI's octane savage.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're going to leave it here. If you guys have any questions about anything, if you have any suggestions about this particular car, if you've got one yourself, if you played around with these engines and you have anything to say that can be helpful to us, by all means, leave a little comment down in the comment section. Don't forget, check out the video description as well. I'll have, well, I don't even know if I'll have links in there because these are discontinued. So, but I'll have a link in there to the unboxing anyway. I'll have links in there to the other guys' unboxings or any future videos that they do with this car, because obviously we're all connected through the remote control network. And I think that's it. We're going to leave it here. I think we've done enough talking. This video has gone on for long enough, but hopefully, you know, it has kind of cured.
Giving you a bit more information. Also explained, you know, we're not hiding from the car.
Yeah.
It's just
it's just that this is what's been going on, and I've been waiting to sort of get to this point and go, okay, let's do a post-run-in review, give people a bit of feedback. These are the issues. This is what's going on, and that's where we're at, and that's where we're going to leave it. Yep. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you, Paul, for being here and giving me a hand with this one. Obviously, you know, Paul has had a lot of input into the running in process, so I figured it would only be fair to have him here, also to back me up, because he knows a little bit more about this than I do. And and I think that's it for today. Speak to you guys next time, and yeah, arrivederci. I don't even know why I said that.
Arrivederci. Yasu. What's another one in other languages?